All right, let's dive deep into Spanish today. We're going to tackle un and otro.
Interesting choices.
Yeah, and you know what? We've got this really cool Spanish teacher's lesson as our guide.
Oh, nice.
And I think it'll be way more engaging than just cracking open a grammar book.
Right.
We're going to really try to understand how Spanish speakers use these words.
Yeah, you'll be surprised, I think, how much you can learn from these seemingly simple words.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Un and una,
Right.
like the Spanish versions of a or an.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher in the video really emphasized that it's super important to match these articles to the gender and number of the noun.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial.
Like in the example from the video, ha venido a verte una amiga.
Right.
A friend has come to see you.
Yes.
So both una and amiga, meaning a female friend, are feminine and singular.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just throw any un around. You have to think about the noun it goes with.
Exactly.
That to make sure it matches.
Yeah. And it's not just singular either. Right.
Just like we'd say some friends in English.
Mm-hmm.
You'd use unos for a group of male friends.
Yeah.
Or unas for female friends.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on from indicating a single item, let's think about how Spanish handles the idea of another.
Oh, sure.
And that's where otro and otra come in.
Mm-hmm. Otro and otra.
And they're really quite versatile.
Yes, very much so.
The source showed all kinds of ways to use them.
Uh-huh.
Like, say you're at a bar and want to order another beer.
Okay.
Would you say, por favor, me pone otra cerveza más?
Perfect, exactly.
Okay, and imagine you're making plans with someone, but you can't meet on Monday.
Okay.
You might say, el lunes estoy de viaje, quedamos otro día. I'm traveling on Monday, let's meet another day.
Yes.
So it looks like otro works for time like another day, as well as for things like another beer.
Right. Very good.
Now this is where things get a little tricky.
Okay.
The teacher gave this example. El otro día fui a la playa. The other day I went to the beach.
But dia, even though it ends in a, it's masculine in Spanish.
Yeah, it can be confusing, right?
Yeah, it does seem counterintuitive.
It does, but that's Spanish for you.
I mean, if it ends in a, I just naturally assume it's feminine.
Well, that's where those assumptions can trip you up.
I guess so.
Because in Spanish, the grammatical gender doesn't always line up with, say, the biological sex of a noun.
Oh, interesting.
Or even how we might think about words ending A or O.
So are there a lot of words like that in Spanish?
There are.
Wow.
And there are lots of theories about why that is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some even linking it to cultural influences on the language.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that language is a reflection of a culture's history and worldview,
Yeah, it is. So to be clear, we always have to pay attention to those gender markings when using otro and otra, right?
Always, absolutely.
Just like with un and una.
Exactly, you've got it.
Okay. I think I'm starting to get it.
Cool.
Now, the lesson also delves into some more complex grammar rules.
Oh, okay.
Like how you can have those words that show ownership.
Oh, you mean possessive adjectives?
Yes. Possessive adjectives like my or your or his.
Right.
And those can come before otro and otra.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this other structure. Otrotra, the plural pronoun article possessive demonstrative plus plural noun.
Yes.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it sounds complicated, but it's actually simpler than it looks.
Okay.
It's just a way to be specific about another one out of a group.
Okay, I see.
The example was helpful. Dame otra de las cervezas que compraste. Give me another one of the beers you bought.
So it's kind of like saying another one of those beers.
That's it.
Oh.
That makes more sense. And notice how ultra is singular, even though we're talking about a group of beers.
Right.
It's all about context.
Yeah, context is key.
It is.
Is there anything else about context that we should remember?
Well, sometimes the context is so clear that you don't even need to repeat the noun. Yeah, you can just use otro or otra by itself.
Like when?
Well, imagine someone is trying on coats, right?
Okay.
And they don't like one, they could just say, no, prefiero el otro.
No, not that one. I prefer the other one.
Exactly.
Got it.
They don't need to say el otro abrigo, the other coat.
Right.
It's understood from the situation.
It's like they already know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So even these seemingly simple words, on and otro, have so many nuances.
Absolutely, they really do.
It's amazing how much depth there is to them.
Yeah, and how they can really make a difference in how well you communicate in Spanish.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So how are you feeling about all this so far?
I'm starting to see how much I still have to learn about Spanish.
It's a journey, right?
It is, but it's an exciting one.
I agree.
And I feel like I'm starting to see the language in a whole new light.
great. That's great.
It's like all these little details are adding up to create this richer, more vibrant picture.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're not just learning the words, you're starting to understand the soul of the language.
I like that, the soul of the language.
And that's where the real magic happens.
I can't wait to see what else we uncover.
Me too, me too.
This deep dive is already opening my eyes to so much I never knew about Spanish.
Well, stay tuned. There's more to come.
I'm ready for it.
All right, let's keep going then. It's amazing how these little grammar points can really change how a language feels.
Yeah, it's true.
Like those subtle differences between un and una,
Right?
or how otro changes to match the gender of the noun.
Uh-huh.
They create a rhythm, a flow that's unique to Spanish.
It's like each language has its own musicality.
Exactly.
So how can we as non-native speakers start to pick up on that and make it sound more natural?
Well, remember how the teacher suggested we rewatch the lesson focusing on un otro?
Yeah, that was a good tip.
That's a great start.
Hmm.
But don't stop there.
Okay.
Immerse yourself in real Spanish as much as you can.
Like watching movies with subtitles or
Yeah.
listening to Spanish music.
Exactly.
Okay.
But don't just passively watch or listen.
Right.
Actively listen for those words. Un and otro.
Hmm.
Notice how native speakers use them.
Okay.
Try to pick up on the nuances, the little details that make it sound so smooth.
That makes sense.
It's like learning a new dance move.
Oh, yeah?
You watch the instructor a few times,
Right.
then you try it yourself,
Mhm.
and with practice, it starts to feel natural.
I get it.
Exactly. And just like with dancing, practice is key.
So the more I hear and see these words used.
The better you'll understand them,
Okay.
the more natural they'll feel.
So it's not just about memorizing the rules.
No, not at all.
It's about developing an ear for the language.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that takes time and patience.
Okay.
So don't worry if you don't sound perfect right away.
I won't.
Remember what the teacher said. Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
It's all part of the process.
It is.
It's like that growth mindset idea.
Yes, exactly.
I love that the source emphasizes that it's okay to make mistakes.
As long as we keep practicing,
Right.
we'll get there eventually.
It takes the pressure off.
Yeah, it does.
And the more mistakes we make, the faster we learn.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Because each mistake is an opportunity to get better.
Yes. To refine our understanding.
So speaking of getting better, any tips on practicing un and otro in conversations?
Well, one thing that's always helpful is to find a language partner.
Oh, okay.
Someone who can give you feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and don't be shy about asking questions.
Right.
The more questions you ask, the more you learn.
That's a good point.
It's about actively engaging with the language.
Not just listening.
Exactly.
So are textbooks and grammar guides still useful?
I think they can be,
Oh,
especially if you like to learn the rules first,
right.
but don't rely on them too much.
Why not?
Because language is constantly changing.
Oh, I see.
A textbook can give you the basics, but it's up to you to go out and use them.
It's like a textbook can teach you the notes on a piano.
But you have to create the music.
Right.
The more you practice, the better you'll get.
I like that analogy.
It's not a chore, it's an art form.
Exactly. It's about expressing yourself,
Connecting with others.
expanding our understanding of the world.
That's what it's all about.
I was really struck by how much the teacher focused on the why behind the rules.
Not just the what.
Yeah, it's important to understand the logic.
It makes it easier to remember.
It's like solving a puzzle.
Exactly.
When you see how the pieces fit together.
It all makes sense.
That's what we've been doing here.
Piecing together the puzzle of un and otro
Right.
to get a better grasp of Spanish.
It makes me wonder what other mysteries are hidden in the language.
Well, that's the beauty of it.
What is?
There's always something new to learn.
And the more you learn,
The more you appreciate how rich and complex Spanish is.
wow, this whole deep dive into un and otro has been a real eye-opener.
It's amazing how much depth there is to even the most basic words in Spanish.
You know what? It's really making me want to keep learning more.
I think that's the beauty of language learning. The more you discover, the more you realize how much more is out there.
It's like opening one door and finding a whole hallway of other doors waiting to be opened.
Exactly. There's always something new to explore.
Speaking of exploring, do you remember how the source material hinted at a surprise at the end of the video series?
Oh, yeah. I wonder what it could be.
I know, right? It's like a little cliffhanger.
Maybe it's a secret trick for mastering these articles.
Or some other fascinating aspect of Spanish grammar that we haven't even thought of.
I guess we'll just have to keep watching to find out.
The anticipation is killing me.
In the meantime, though, I think we've given everyone a good place to start.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
From basic meanings to some pretty tricky grammar.
And we talked about the cultural and historical stuff, too.
Right. It's not just about memorizing the rules.
It's about understanding how un and otro are really used.
By real Spanish speakers in real conversations.
We talked about practicing and immersing ourselves in the language.
And not being afraid to make mistakes.
That's so important.
It really is.
It's all part of the process, right?
Absolutely.
So hopefully we've inspired everyone to go beyond just learning about Spanish,
To actually experience it.
to listen carefully to how native speakers use these words.
To notice all the little details.
Because that's what it's all about, right?
It is. It's about connecting with another culture.
Expressing yourself in new ways.
And broadening your horizons.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into un and otro, remember that this is just the beginning.
There's a whole world of Spanish out there waiting to be discovered.
So keep exploring, keep practicing.
And most importantly, keep having fun with Spanish.
Hasta la próxima.